available for approval are February 23rd. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 23rd.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. The board has, the next agenda item is the draft for the open space plan review. And Mark, I know you're on it, and I think Phil is on it. I don't know who wants to, Claire, whoever wants to take the lead on this.
Well, I'd just like to start off by saying we've had MRPC do a plan. It's currently being finished in the works. And basically what we're looking for tonight is approval from the Board of Selectmen and just to sign off on our approval sheet that we do approve with the current open space plan. I guess that's all I have to say right now, and I could let Claire or Philip take over.
And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I'm going to leave Phil to do most of the talking here, but one of the things that we wanted to make clear to the Selectmen was this is a draft that we will be submitting to the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. Therefore, we're really seeking your comments at this time. We understand that maybe you will have, I'm sure you will have comments and questions, and so we certainly want to try and address those and include those in our submission. Now I'd like to pass it over to Phil.
Yeah, to reiterate, this is what we're submitting is a preliminary plan, which was reviewed by the State Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. After their preliminary review, they submit it back to us with their comments. We incorporate their comments and any other comments, have a public hearing, incorporate any comments that come out of that, and then resubmit it as a final plan for certification. So what we're really looking for are your comments and an acknowledgement that you have reviewed the plan. In this preliminary submittal, we're required to submit letters from the Planning Board, the Parks and Rec Commission, the Conservation Commission, and the Board of Selectmen. So we're trying to get those administrative stamps of consideration taken care of.
Just a few questions that I have. I'll just start and then I'll yield to the members. I know that in the objectives, well, first of all, I know that to accomplish some of these things that you want to set out to do, there obviously is the monetary price tag that goes with it. Sure. And so what mechanism would you put in place, or would you try to put in place to accomplish some of what you want to do?
I think we would address those on a action-by-action basis. The plan is actually rather generic in terms of its goals. It doesn't, nowhere does it say go out and get this specific piece of property, nowhere does it say protect this specific piece of property. It really tries to establish goals kind of broadly drawn that can be looked at further. And obviously everyone on the committee understands that this is one of a number of interests which need to be reconciled in any municipal budget, but it does establish one point of view on how things might proceed in the coming times. And really, there'd have to be sufficient impetus to get any of these off the ground. And at that point, we would look more specifically at what the costs were, what grants might be available, what reimbursement programs might be available. Because obviously, any of these steps would be largely driven by grants and reimbursements. So.
And I guess I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, if I may add to that, one of the reasons for actually submitting and hopefully getting a certified open space plan is to be eligible to receive grants from the state, such as the Urban Self-Help and the Self-Help Fund. If we don't actually submit it, then we won't be eligible. Also, other grant programs such as the Trails program would look very favorably upon the town having a certified open space plan and matching it with self-help program funds, and whether or not we would have a local non-profit trust that would be able to contribute funds as well, in addition to any municipal funds that were used.
In addition, there's ICE-T transportation funds, which are specifically earmarked for kind of projects that have a recreational component. This opens up broadly to the opportunity to basically apply for some of these grants if we deem that these are projects worth pursuing. I was remarking to Claire earlier, like brownfields and brownfields reinvestment, this is kind of a horizon of new public investment at the federal and state level that's just now opening up. This is the kind of plan we need to do to establish a groundwork to pursue those monies in the future, if they become available.
I will say I did read it. I read this last night and I read it over. Excuse me. Read over again today, and it is a very nice, very well put together document.
All kudos to Lori Connors of MRPC. She did the writing and put it
Yeah,
together.
very, very nice. But I'll yield to, you want to start, Mark? Do you have any questions?
I just make a comment to the board that, we haven't had an open space plan in the last over 10 years now, so I think it's, it's imperative that we get this underway and have our approval tonight. It's something I'm in support of. That's all I have to say.
Ryan?
I really don't have anything because I haven't had a chance to read it. We got it yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I guess it looks impressive, but I don't know what it says. So despite Mark's urgings to approve it this evening, I'm not prepared to because I don't know what's in it and wouldn't be prepared to do that.
If I can kind of express what our timeline is. Like I said, this is a preliminary plan. And what we're looking for, we're hoping to submit this in the coming 2 weeks to the EOEA, the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. And I think what we need fundamentally to get that underway is a letter acknowledging your receipt of it and that you've given some preliminary review. We would look forward, absolutely look forward to incorporating any remarks you might have into the final plan. We have the EOEA's comments, the Commonwealth's comments to incorporate, and a public hearing as well. So this isn't a definitive sign-off on the plan, but this is one step in getting towards that final document. So if you can look at it, like I said, in the next 2 weeks we're looking to submit it, and if you can find the time in the coming 2 weeks to review it and offer any comments you can, that would be very helpful.
And just to follow up, in reading it, I noticed that, and again, I would certainly go along with letting the preliminary document go forward. But I did have, some questions, obviously, and I would hope that we could expound on them in the future discussion, in being that a lot of the responsibilities seem to lie that any future submission through grants or whatever, I've lost my page here, the objectives certainly seem to, for the most part, involve the Community and Economic Development Office. Mm-hmm. And so, being that they are a Community Economic Development Office, obviously this would certainly broaden more into the planning aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And so, I hope that we can have an opportunity to further discuss that issue.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And out of a few places, if you've seen the Uptown recommendations that came out of the report prepared by their consultants,
Yep.
They had a lot of recommendations in the field of planning and administration.
Yep.
That would seem to dovetail some of the things that are indicated in this plan.
Yep.
But, yeah, that's definitely something for discussion.
Good. Jerry, did you have anything else?
No.
Just a couple. On the thing, it says the conservation and the environmental management is about 91% of the property is owned. On page 25,
Yeah.
in the inventory of lands of open space.
Let's see. Yes, 91% of the open space that's inventoried in town is the MDC watershed.
Okay, that's what you're counting.
Yeah.
But there's other properties here I noticed that are owned by individuals too. Like Coach Lace Pond
Yep.
is owned by that Denim Wash Company down below.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I know.
All right, no, I was just wondering if because you got a combination of 135 acres. These ponds are, but that guy owns 90 acres of this.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, he owns the pond.
And it isn't stated in here, that's why I just want to make sure you...
No, he owns, and another private landowner owns a lot of the West South Meadow Pond as well. They own the land underneath it, but they own the land underneath it.
Yes, they do. I don't know if he owns any around the outsides of it at all, but I know when he bought that place, he ended up with all that land there too.
Oh yeah, most of it is most of the abutting lands, and all those ponds are held privately, with the exception of Clamshell, in which case the MDC owns a lot of the frontage on the east side of the pond. But yeah.
Okay,
Is that it, Jim?
that's good.
Dina?
I don't have anything, I really didn't have a chance to read into it. I leafed through it, but
Yes, I did.
I didn't have a chance to read it over.
Okay.
So just to recap again, so that we all understand exactly, if we were to vote, we're
Yeah.
just voting for you to proceed with the process and to make the initial submission.
Yeah, I think it would be an internal vote amongst yourself to forward a letter to, I think the woman's name is Jennifer Soper at the EOEA. I can give you her address and everything like that. Just saying that you're in receipt of it and that you've reviewed it.
What if the board didn't vote and deferred it this week?
We wouldn't be able to submit, the state would consider it an incomplete application, probably wouldn't accept it for review.
I'm sorry?
The state, the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, I imagine, would consider it an incomplete submission. They have a whole laundry list of required elements when you submit a plan. And I imagine that, especially since they're up to here with these things, every town is doing these things, they would consider it an incomplete application and probably wouldn't review it.
Is there a deadline for this particular
Well,
process to go?
our initial deadline worked backwards from this fiscal year's grant deadlines. In light of other exigencies in town, I mean, we're very realistic about the likelihood of money going forward in this time. However, the people on the committee have put in a lot of time over a short period of time to put together this plan on a very collapsed schedule. We really would like to get it done so we can all get back to our lives, basically. So we would like to proceed with due diligence.
Would you just like to share with us some of the individuals who participated in this?
Oh, sure.
So you
From
had-
the planning board, it was Richard Friel and myself. From Parks and Rec, it was Mark and Daria. Conservation Commission was Mike Murray. Claire was on the board. Joel Frisch and Franny Hodge as interested citizens. Norman Estabrook from the Disabilities Commission sat in a few meetings. A lot of the South Meadow people, Paul Cherubini, Dave Dunn, Mr. Buffaro. Thanks, Mr. Buffaro was there
Yes,
at every
I
meeting.
really had a cross-section of
That's the-
private and municipal and...
Exactly, and that was the intent. I was very impressed by everyone's consideration for what we were dealing with. Everyone dealt with it seriously, and everyone had an input. It worked really well. It did. It was a good process. So, and in addition, we had the survey that went out, and we had the workshop. So, that's how it got put together.
Dennis, do you have anything? Or?
No, I don't.
Okay. No other questions?
But I guess just to get back to the deadline.
Yeah.
You're indicating that you'd like to get it done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Is the board deferred voting on this evening so that a few of us that haven't had a chance to review it could do that and voted on it at our meeting 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from now would put us at the end of our timeline, but it's a doable thing. It's a doable thing.
I mean, I don't foresee that I'm going to have a problem with
Sure,
it. I
I
just don't
understand.
like voting on something
I
and
understand you-
approving something that I haven't even really looked at.
I understand that you have an obligation.
You
to
know, and
conduct review.
I'd be certainly willing to, if you know, the board would want to do a phone poll or something, vote by phone or whatever, in the next several days, I'm sure I could you know, review it in that period of time.
Cool.
I just,
That would be even more helpful.
again, I can't tonight, that's all.
No, I appreciate your situation.
I kind of agree with Marty because I haven't gone through everything here. I'd like to,
Sure.
do this.
Do it by phone.
Sure.
And by all means, I mean, we welcome all comments, any comments you have, because it's our intent that if this plan gets done, that it can be a real instrument, not just something that sits on the shelf, and it's going to require the input and participation of a lot of people in town, and you're important people, so anything you want to make as a remark, by all means, we welcome it.
I think we're also looking for the sheet to have the signatures on the sheet also.
Big pardon?
I believe we're looking to have signatures on the sheet, like I know what we did on Parks and Rec, we voted.
Yeah, exactly,
We
just a letter signed
it.
by the board.
Right. So if we want to do it that way, call in and then, you know,
Stop
if
by
you
and
stop
sign
by and sign it, we can get it to you hopefully by by Friday. Does that sound like a good deadline for everyone here, this Friday?
Do you want to leave it over the weekend?
You can take the weekend, please.
Take the weekend.
There's one other element hanging out there as well, which is going to be...
Why don't we say Monday, and then that way it gives everybody at least 5 days ample time, I would think,
That'd be great.
for people to read the document.
Have any questions in between, we can either get a hold of you or Claire.
Yeah, if you'd like to give me a call, and I have numerous telephone numbers to find Phil at, so I'd be happy to filter any questions between myself and the rest of the committee members.
Okay. So, Dennis, just to keep it on a legal basis here, should we move that through reviewing the document, that the board will, by Monday, come up to sign and endorse the open plan that will be submitted?
My concern, certainly only from a legal standpoint, is if they're asking you to actually approve it, my legal recommendation is that we convene a public meeting and hold a public meeting and take a vote on approving it. If they're only asking you to acknowledge that you received it and that you reviewed it, I don't have a problem with the phone poll on that. But if it's an actual approval of the document, my strong recommendation would be that we do that in a public meeting and convene a meeting. If that means we have to meet next week, then we should meet next week.
Yeah, I would concur.
Okay, actually, we'll call MRPC and verify, if there's preferred language to that letter, and get back to you tomorrow.
Well, let me just ask while we're here, does anyone have any problem meeting on Monday night to go over the document?
I don't.
Okay. Mark, what time can you get back, 6:30?
Yes, sorry.
Marty, is that okay with you? Okay. Why don't we do then, we'll defer the action on this until Monday at 6:30.
Great.
I'll accept a motion to that.
I make a motion that we defer this to Monday at 6:30.
Is there a
Open
second?
space plan.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you folks can be available.
I gotta check my calendar. I might have to see what we can do. I know I'm busy.
Well, I think someone should be here. I know Mark will be here, but I don't know, just for any questions, maybe a few committee members or...
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael, you're on.
Just 2 items tonight for the board. There's a late night closing request by Breakaway Billiards for Friday, March 17th. They would like to open until 2 a.m.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Move that we approve the request.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's
One
unanimous.
abstention.
I'm sorry, it's 4-1.
The next item is a request from the Chairman of the Conservation Commission asking the selectmen to approve and appropriate $1,400 from the Wetlands Protection Fund to allow the Conservation Commission to hire wetland scientists for consultation on the Nathan Heights Phase 1 subdivision. Previously, the money that from this fund comes from filing fees that developers put forward when they filed for a notice of intent with the Conservation Commission. That goes into a fund that's reserved just for expenditure by the Conservation Commission for water wetlands protection. Previously, you would need town meeting approval for appropriation of these funds, but a new legislation in 1997 changed that, and it allows them to access these funds with a vote of the Board of Selectmen. So the Conservation Commission is making that request tonight to the Selectmen and asking if they could proceed with this request.
I'm sure I move that we approve the expenditure of $1,400 from the Wetlands Protection Fund by the Conservation Commission.
Second the motion, Madam Chair.
Any discussion?
And the discussion, we have an environmental notification form here, it's in the packet, Mike, from Nathan Heights. Is that the same?
Right, what that is, that's a filing that subdivision has to do, the E&F, which goes to the state. I think what they're asking is the Conservation Commission is asking to hire someone that can review that for them. They'll review that process and that document to make comments as to what action they should take, the Conservation.
Okay.
Actually, what they submitted, and so they want to hire someone to review the document.
Right.
All right.
Independent person.
Any other discussion? over new business, but I know that you've been involved with the tank up on Burdick Hill on a day-to-day basis. So you might want to just,
Sure,
I don't have to use my voice.
Okay, sure. Just as an update to let people know, now the weather is warming up. The fence closing off the property is being installed this week. They expect that to be done by Friday, which would allow Dennis Street to be reopened finally. Yeah.
Street's open today.
Oh, it is open today. Okay, good. Beautiful. Good. So they're hoping to complete that work so the street can remain open. Residents have been anxious to have that done. However, there is still work that needs to be done. They have some grading on the site, some seeding, hydro seeding to do. They need to thorough seal and paint the tank and pave Dennis Street for the destruction that they did. So that'll all be done as the weather gets warmer around mid-April, but at least the fence will be up so that Dennis Street can be reopened.
Terrific. That's wonderful.
It's been a long time coming.
Okay, also, the next item, Mike, and I don't know if you want to, because you've been in the interviewing process.
Sure, yeah. On the search for a new Department of Public Works superintendent, we had 26 applicants. The board had given a direction for a candidate with engineering background and public works background. I did some interviewing, preliminary interviewing for the board. And out of the 26 people, there was only a small number of people that was still in contention because of the salary issue. People that, a lot of the people that had the requested qualifications were not interested in the position because of the salary. So at that point, I just asked to come up with a short list, to ask for direction from the board, to proceed with the people that are left, or if the board wanted to take any further action. So this is just something I'm just looking as a board as to what direction. If the board is going to keep with the salary that's offered in the range, then we'll proceed with the people that are left at this point. So.
Just open for any discussion on might have on the issue.
Madam Chair, just one. Can we also push this to personal bylaw to look to the board, to see if we could advertise or push the current salary range up from 59 up to whatever we desire?
I think if it does go up, it would be some request that would have to be made to the personnel board. The personnel board would do a reclassification, and they would take the request and handle how much it would go up or what it would go up to. That's something the personnel board would have to review and make a determination if the selectmen feel that they need to increase this. I think the personnel board would want to sit down with the board and talk about what's fair or what's out in the industry and what the town's actually looking for. So I mean, I don't think it would be anything anything automatic or any specific salary. I think it would have to sit down with the personnel board and discuss that. So.
Okay. We'd have to sit down and basically come to an agreement what we could afford to offer, basically, even through the personnel board.
Yeah, and I think the personnel board would look at the classification, based upon the position and the responsibilities, and in other communities, I'm sure.
Okay.
That's essentially how I would think they would do it, is look what other communities are paying for people with engineering qualifications. Quite frankly, my own personal opinion is I think that because of the complexity of the DPW superintendent position and overseeing the water, the sewer, and the cemetery, obviously we have three presently and have had in the past very qualified foremen that oversee those individual departments, and that from the superintendent's position, it's a lot of administrative work, plus, again, coming in with the expertise of the engineering background. Obviously, there is an enormous amount of plans and technical things that come across that office, and that would really be my main goal in supporting going forward before the personnel board to upgrade the position. Again, I think that, quite frankly, if you look around in the Beacon that comes out every month, and all of the communities throughout the Commonwealth advertise for whether it be town administrators or assessors or superintendents of public works or whatever the case may be. I think you'll find that we are probably far below what other communities are paying for people in that capacity. Again, we had Billy for almost 20 years, and quite frankly, I think for most of those 20 years, he was grossly underpaid for the job that he did. So I think that it's showing by the fact that we're having some difficulty getting engineers, people with engineering backgrounds at the salary level that's being offered, and that's just my feeling on the issue.
I guess I somewhat disagree. I think that on Michael's short list, there were at least 5 or 6 people that I think could fill that position. Several of them are engineers. The others are not engineers but have DPW experience and are willing to take the job at the money that it's currently at. I think without at least pursuing those 5 or 6 people, we don't know that we need to raise the salary at this point. Several dropped out because of the money, others dropped out for other reasons, but I think there are still, as I say, 5 or 6 people on there that are definitely qualified for the position and are willing to take the position at the money as it currently is. So I think it's a little bit premature to be discussing raising the salary when we haven't even pursued the 5 or 6 candidates that are left.
Well, again, I don't tend to sit here and debate all night long on the issue, but I think that the people who are left on the short list don't have a lot of experience in the DPW realm of administrative. I think one of the individuals from, I don't know, it's Hudson or Marlborough, has never held, my understanding, I don't think any of the short list that's left have ever held position of superintendent. Maybe you could...
Well, there's one who's the superintendent of streets in the town of Grafton.
Streets. But we're talking
Well,
as superintendent.
we haven't spoken to him yet.
Yes.
We haven't spoken to the individual
Right.
yet. So how do we know what he's actually done in that capacity of superintendent of streets? We have an individual in our own DPW that has 10-plus years' experience in the DPW.
With no administrative skill.
No administrative experience, you're
That's
right. There are several engineers for the Mass Highway Department that are engineers. We haven't spoken to them. We don't know what they've done. So to just say, let's raise the salary because we don't like the people on the list, we haven't even talked to the people on the list. So we don't know that we don't like them yet. I just think if we talk to them and we don't like those people, we don't want to offer them the job, then we can step back and say, all right, we have a problem here, maybe we need to raise the salary. But to do that prior to even interviewing the individuals on the list, I think is foolhardy.
But is it not true, Marty, that most of the people that had outstanding backgrounds dropped out of it because of the salary range? So that the ones that are essentially left on that list would never have been on the top of the list in the first place?
I don't know that firsthand. I've looked at their resumes. I have yet to meet face-to-face with any of them, so I don't know if they're outstanding or not.
Mm-hmm.
My suggestion is just let's bring them in, let's talk to them, and if then we find out we don't want any of them, then we raise the salary because we're having a problem. But to do it now, I think, is crazy. I mean, we're going to raise the salary and then re-advertise it and start the process all over when one of the 5 could be the person we want.
Yeah,
but we don't know that until we've spoken to them.
And we've also had on that list probably one of the best qualified and is a Clintonian and won't consider it because of the salary cap on it. So,
I don't know
mean,
who
you could
that is.
you could go on and on, so.
I don't know who that
Is there any other discussion? So, having said that, I don't know which way the board wants to go, or if there's any motion.
Well, I
Either
move
way.
that the board instruct the administrator to bring in the candidates that are still interested in the position so that the board can interview them and find out if we like any of them.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Jerry abstains. I'm opposed.
Madam Chair, just under a discussion, I think I should have brought this up earlier. I mean, if we were to go and have this short list, and the person, say, had the most experience or whatever, didn't want to take the job and it wasn't any issue, then could we go to the personnel board and say, look, we interviewed this person, he wants, X amount of dollars, and then go about it on that system?
Well, obviously, you'd have to get a majority of the board to vote that way. Right.
I personally don't have a problem if we talk to some one of these people and find out, like I said, either we don't want to hire any of them, we then step back and say, okay, we've got a problem here, and it's obviously salary. We then go to the personnel board and say, we want to raise the salary. All of the people on the short list have indicated they would accept the job at the current salary. So if we do interview all 5 or 6 people left, and we come to a conclusion that this one is the person we want, that person has already indicated they will take the job at that money.
All right, that would be, if we interview the 5 or 6 people that we have, and we don't find the person we're looking for there, then I would go to the personnel board.
And I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
I think that would be a,
My question is, if there's a person on the list that we like and wants to come, but it's a money issue,
if it comes
then we
to...
can go to the personnel board for that person.
It might come to
That's
that.
Sure.
It might come to that.
Because my only thing is that, yeah, sure, we're going to get someone that doesn't, takes a job for less money, but yet we're going to have to go out and hire outside engineers anyways, and that's just going to cost us more money down the road.
Well, we are going to do that anyways.
We go outside...
We've done that for years and years and years, that every project we do,
I don't know
we
if we'd have
hire
to
an
do that
engineering
on
company.
every
Billy, as
instance.
good as he was, did not run all of the engineering.
Yeah, but if we
in the
hire
town
a
of
guy
Plainville.
now that has the educational background, we might not have to do that every time, Marty.
I don't
That's my
think, I
thing.
don't think it's a matter of Billy not being qualified to do that. I think it's a matter of Billy not having the time to do that.
Well,
And I don't know that the new person who goes into that job is going to have the time to be an engineer for projects.
Well, I disagree with you, Marty, because Billy was involved in every project that ever came
I'm not
across this
suggesting he
town.
wasn't, but to say that he actually engineered the project is untrue.
Well, I don't think
We
he-
hired Dufresne and Henry to do water projects. We hired Dufresne and Henry to do Uptown.
I don't-
We've hired engineering companies to engineer all of the projects.
I don't
Billy
think that was,
oversaw
I'm not going to
those.
speak for Mac, but I don't believe that Mac was implying that whoever was the new superintendent of public works was going to oversee every engineering problem that was coming up in this town.
As I understood it, he said we wouldn't have to hire any engineers, outside engineers.
I don't think he meant in every instance.
not in every point. But I mean, if we get one that's majored in a certain area, like water or whatever, some type of infrastructure.
It might reduce your outside engineering.
It's not going to eliminate it.
No, I don't believe that.
And we have, 3, like Mary Rose says, 3 qualified supervisors under that. That could surely handle the thing while our supervisor's out overseeing engineer work. And I think that would save the town money down the long run.
Any other discussion? I believe the vote is 2 in favor of interviewing. Jerry abstained. I voted against it. And
Yeah, I'm going to vote against it right now, Madam Chair.
So, I guess I'll have to yield to solicitor that, what do we do? Because it's two in favor, 2 against.
Basically means the motion fails from a legal standpoint. So now the board has to then decide what you want to do to move forward on filling the position. I mean, I think obviously everybody recognizes it's a crucial position, so one way or the other, I think we need to move forward on it. So somebody, I guess, would have to make a motion to have an alternative.
Well, I would step down from the chair and yield to vice chairman to make a motion again that we go to the personnel board and ask for the position to be elevated to another grade. or at least to look at, to do a basic overall study as to what communities comparable to the town of Clinton are paying for DPW superintendents. I know it will probably slow the process down somewhat, but I think whatever decision that the town, this board, ultimately decides on this position will have far-reaching consequences for the taxpayers in this town if we don't get someone truly qualified for this position, and that's just my play on it.
Make that a motion.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? There being no second, I guess the motion fails.
Madam Chair, and I don't mean to interject my opinion because I'm here for legal matters only, but one possible solution may be to pursue both issues simultaneously, to commence the interviews of the people that are on the short list, and at the same time at least get the paperwork ready and get meetings set up with the personnel board, so that if that becomes an issue, you could probably have your interviews done by the time you'd be going before the personnel board. And then if you found the right person and the right salary is already in place, then obviously you could hire that person.
Can we, Mark, you said you believe you have a person on the list that's qualified, but the salary might keep them out.
I think that's the problem we're having right now, Dino, yeah.
Okay, then
That's, I think that's a good point.
Can we meet with the personnel board at the same time? Can they be in on the, they wouldn't be able to act instantaneously?
Certainly, you could interview, obviously, anybody on that list that you want to interview. If the individual comes in and after you interview that person, you decide you'd like to hire that person and you make an offer, and they come back and say, well, that offer is not high enough for what I would need to come to work for the town, then at that point, you could certainly then go to the personnel board and say to the personnel board, we need you to go ahead and look into increasing the funding for that particular position.
And why don't I make that motion then? Make a motion that we interview the short list with possible involvement of the personnel board if there's a salary issue.
Just, how long are we going to expect a candidate to sit around waiting for the personnel board to make a decision?
It would have to be...
We interview a candidate and he's interested in the position, but, you know, we don't know what the salary's going to be. Aren't we wasting his time and everybody's time if we can't sit during the interview and say this is what the position pays?
If what Michael has indicated previously is what I recall, my understanding is that the individuals that are on the short list have said that they would accept the amount that the town is offering. So the real issue, I think, is after you interview those people, is there somebody within that group that you want to hire? If you say no, then it's obvious you're going to have to go to the personnel board if you want to go ahead and give any other people an additional amount of money.
So we need
Just to interject, not to belabor the subject, but I believe the first candidate that we offered the position to declined the position, not necessarily because of the salary, but because of health care. There was a problem with the health benefits, and he didn't want to give up what he had to take the town's insurance. So that individual was an engineer. That individual was the choice of all 5 members, or 4, because I believe Mr. Buffett abstained, and it was not a salary issue. So I got to sit here, and you know, this is the work I do for a living, and say, it isn't the salary.
Well, again, Marty, I hate to make this a debate, but I think that we all acknowledge the fact that to some degree we were played as a pawn, and that ultimately we did offer the position, and we did go to the max of what we could for that position. But very clearly, even when we offered that position to the gentleman, it was very questionable whether he was going to take it or not, and ultimately declined, and did receive a substantial increase from the company that he was then presently employed for. So, I mean, it's one thing to say that yes, he was going to accept the position, but I think all of us ultimately agreed that was there a tremendous amount of sincerity in is really saying that he wanted the job in the first place. So, I mean, again, I just feel, and I truly will not change my opinion on this, because I don't believe that we would be doing the townspeople a justified service if we take someone from this short list that has no engineering background because they are willing to take the money that's offered. I think that's really penny-wise and pound-foolish, and ultimately it will come back tenfold to hurt us in the future.
To say that nobody has experience or engineering, the second candidate on the list has DPW and engineering experience, and he's okay with the salary.
I make a motion that we interview from the short list.
Second.
Just under discussion of that, what Marty said about the healthcare, I think that was one issue about that person having a problem with the town's healthcare. I think the town has a good healthcare system, but I think in the long run, it's going to come down to money. It's about money. It's about how much we're offering to pay these people.
We don't know that, Mark.
Well, I do.
There's the
We've had
list.
problems with it.
There's the list that Michael gave us. Gentleman from Marlboro, DPW and engineering experience, okay with the salary. Mr. Hamm, superintendent of streets at the town of Grafton, okay with the salary. Paul Tivnan, engineer for the Mass Highway Department, okay with the salary. There are several people on there that are okay with the salary, and they are engineers, if that's what we're looking for. We don't know these people, we haven't talked to them yet. My suggestion is simply, let's talk to the people that are left on the list. If we don't like them, then we go to the personnel board.
Can I just, I know you got a motion on the floor, and it's been second. Are we then, because we have consistently said it from day one, are we saying that we will not hire someone that doesn't have an engineering degree?
I'm not saying that. A person comes in here and has 10 or 15 years in the DPW somewhere, I think it certainly should be considered.
Well, I don't want to speak for, I'm sorry.
I'd just like to say there's a lot of monies there that they have to keep on to go get.
Actually, you're looking for more for a
No,
grant.
I'm just saying that,
I
you know.
understand that, and if when we interview them, we find out that they have no experience
Yes.
doing any of those things,
Okay.
then we make a decision as a board. Do we want this person or don't we? If we don't, then we look elsewhere.
And we have to go again.
Well, again, I guess I would just say, why would the board be opposed to change their position of saying how important it was to have someone with an engineering background?
Not that it's less important. It's as important to have an engineer, but you also need the right person going after the grant monies available to the town, my opinion.
That's right, which is administrative.
Right. And you have to know,
administratively so.
someone has to know how to do that, Dino.
And-
But Mark is saying he'd like to see an engineer on the street.
Well, you have to, all these.
I agree with
They're
that.
overseeing them. You have to be an engineer to read your blueprints.
I agree with
that.
that. That's fine, but you're still gonna hire outside engineers.
Oh, yes, but you still have to be an engineer to go over the blueprints and see what's
Right.
going on.
Absolutely.
I mean, just a regular layman
So
can't go fix
so it's
something.
important to have an engineer on the
Yes,
job.
I would
It's
say.
important to go after the monies
Yes,
available
it
to the
is,
job.
yes.
They have to know how to do that too, Dino. It's, it's important to say, yeah, grant money, but they have to know how to do that. Chapter 90 money and
Are you still opposed to interviewing the short list, Mark?
Well, I like Dennis's suggestion about doing both. Talking with the personnel board so we can get the ball rolling on that, if it comes down to that, and interviewing from the...
You can bring them in if you need them, but you might not need them, right?
Well, I think they should be ready if we do need them, that's what I'm
Right,
saying.
okay, that's fine. You gonna vote on the motion?
Well, I'm still under discussion. Is there any other discussion? No other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm not sure where we are with the
Well,
motion.
this discussion was to
To interview
interview
the
the
short
short
list.
list,
That's just from, your motion's just from the short list, right?
from the short list.
Doesn't include the
Aye.
personnel board.
Well, I can change that motion, I guess.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we interview the short list and notify the personnel board that we might need them
Well,
to reclassify the job.
I'd like to get the ball get the ball starting rolling here with the personnel board and tell them, look, this is what we might need.
Make the motion, Mark.
All right, I'll make a
Well,
motion.
there's a motion. Do you want to amend Dino's
Amend
motion?
Dino's motion, so that we have it as we notify the personnel board as ASAP as soon as possible, and we interview also from the shortlist.
I'll second
Is there a
that.
second to his amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Well, just to have the personnel board notified now to work on the salary we need, and going on for the shortlist.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
Okay, now, motion was to interview the shortlist. We just vote on the amendment.
We voted on the amendment. So the motion is to interview the shortlist and notify the personnel board.
Right.
Do I have a second?
A second?
Second.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, committee reports.
Did you get all
I
that,
have
Joe,
a-
Lisa?
I have a traffic committee.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
All right, well, Jimmy was our representative on the board. The chairman usually is the, and Jimmy was the representative because he was in town. I'd like to volunteer for that position. Let's talk with the, to put Jimmy's position on
Sure,
that.
sure.
And on the traffic committee.
On the traffic committee, I know.
Volunteer to be on the
Yeah,
traffic
I know
committee.
Mike has been serving, but sure, I...
Yeah,
they-
no, Michael's
great.
still going to be
Yeah,
on there too,
terrific.
because Michael just would take down the notes.
Great, excellent,
Yeah,
terrific.
okay,
All those in favor of appointing Jerry to the traffic committee?
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
Okay, terrific, thanks, Jerry.
Mhm.
Okay, committee reports, and I hope everyone bears with me with my voice tonight, but Saturday evening on March 11th is our kickoff event to start celebrating the 150th of Clinton, and it'll be taking place at, starts at 4:30, I think it's either 4 or 4:30 in the afternoon, with a terrific program that's going to take place with a lot of entertainment. And 6:30, we have some other, and I don't have it in front of me now. We have some other great entertainment anyways that will be going on from 6:30 till 7, and then at 7:30 we will have a speaking program. And from 4:30 until 6:30, we have over 30, excuse me, organizations that have come forward and will be having displays in the town hall. Also, we have essay contest winners from the schools, grade, believe it's grade 1 through grade 12. And it was broken down into 3 categories, so they'll be reading their essays. And we have Tommy Torini that's going to be doing food, and it is all free of charge, and the only thing that will be of any cost to anyone will be, we have a cash bar that Brian McNally from the Old Timers has very graciously agreed to do for us, and that'll be just the cost of whatever you may choose to have to drink that evening. We'll also have soda and coffee as well, and desserts and pastries. So we truly hope that people will come out. Eddie Philbin in the school department has done just a tremendous job, and Christine Flaherty, and they really should take all the credit for it, and I can't say enough about what they've done. They've really put themselves out, and all we really need now is participation and people to come down on Saturday from 4:30 on, and I believe it's till 10 o'clock at night, so there'll be music after the speaking program, and so come one and come all. It's a wonderful event to kick off for our 150th celebration, so please come. Also, there are still a couple of vacancies on the elementary school building need committee. I don't know. Again, I guess I should just say that the board can think about whether they're got enough free time to participate. Again, I think Jerry just took another one on. What's this
Yeah.
about your 20th committee? So someone can just let Michael know if they're willing to participate. Does anyone else have any other committee reports? If Okay. If not, we'll go into public comment. Is there anyone?
No, actually, it's not a committee report, and it probably should have been discussed under old and new business. I guess I'd just like to comment that a week or so ago, when we had the town meeting, several individuals took the floor and talked about, finding ways to help the elderly reduce their tax rate, to reduce their tax burden. And while there were several good suggestions, sometimes easy to throw out a suggestion without knowing the ramifications of such a suggestion. And the suggestion to, not charge elderly for trash stickers is a good one on its face. However, unlike business, the town is not a for-profit organization. So if we don't charge elderly for trash stickers on the one hand, we have to make up that revenue somewhere else. And there may be a way to do that. I guess at this point, I'd like to suggest to the board, for their consideration, at least forming a committee, subcommittee, if you will, to look at just that issue, efforts to help reduce the tax burden on elderly people. We do have several programs underway now. The one that Jerry chaired, I think it was the senior tax rebate program, which is wonderful. Maybe an expansion of that type of a program would help us. But I think that the community at large probably will have a lot of ideas, and to form a committee and ask for representatives from various organizations in town, the Senior Citizen Center certainly, several of the people that spoke at the town meeting may be willing to share some time and get involved in an effort like that. So I think it would be a good idea to form a committee to look at ways that the town can help the elderly to reduce their tax burden. And I would move that we form a committee just for that purpose.
Well, we're going to get into discussion. We have a meeting March 20th. We're going to get back into looking into a lot of this, because there is information here about the state that, it's in this here about passing the tax rebate program. They had quite a write-up in here, and we're going to bring it up at the 20th at our meeting down here with the tax rebate program. We're going to get into it a little deeper here.
I guess I'm just thinking that if there's a way that we could bring together all of those people that may have suggestions and get them together in one place, whether it be here or somewhere else, to just get ideas and throw ideas around and look at it.
Yeah. A couple of things, I'm glad you brought it up, that did come out. One was obviously about the trash fee. Back when the trash fee happened, we set 75 cents for a bag for trash. Ultimately, we have never raised that, and subsequently, quote unquote, the taxpayers in this town are subsidizing it, because over time, the fee that we've had to pay to bring our trash has just increased, I believe, probably twice over what we had started. And so that has really become an issue that obviously the town really does have to look into very seriously, because even at the 75 cents, we're not covering the costs of providing that service. And just to follow up on that I know there was an issue, and I might say I do agree with you. I think that perhaps a committee would serve a purpose in this, but on the committee that Jerry does serve on, the tax rebate committee, that was passed several years ago, and it has to be passed at town meeting, and I believe there's $10,000 in it, and that makes 20 people eligible at $500, and I believe that has gone up though, dear.
It has to go up because the minimum wage
went up.
Yes.
But so there is that, though a very small program, it is in place, and I don't even know if they've reached, if they've ever been able to get 20 people.
No, but we've already had people calling after this meeting here
Town
that's
meeting.
looking to get on it. And in fact, one fellow stopped me today and says, "You're going to start?" And I said, "The 20th, we're having a meeting, get organized again." So there's interest in it.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion? To form a committee to perhaps look into ways that we could help the elderly.
I'll second the motion, Madam Chair.
Just further on discussion, perhaps we should try to get a cross-section of people to participate. So again, I guess we would look for the press to help us out on this, and perhaps we'll put an ad in the paper asking for interested people to come forward to serve on the committee.
Or even, Madam Chair, if I can make a suggestion, maybe even just posting a flyer of some sort, or some informational down at the Clinton COA. You know,
Yeah.
I think we need some seniors on the
Oh,
committee.
most definitely, but,
Absolutely.
you know, if you could have a real cross-section of people and, you know, bounce off a lot of ideas and hopefully and maybe somehow come up with some kind of a relief for those folks. Okay, there's been a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Does anyone else have anything else? We'll go to public comment. Bob, sure.
Doesn't get any easier, does it, huh?
I'm told you're going to,
Pardon?
I'm told you're going to participate Saturday night. Coming?
I'm sorry, can't hear
I heard that you're coming Saturday night.
you. Yes,
Okay, very good.
I have another engagement, but I'm going to come, and then I'll have to leave later.
Well, just,
I'll be there.
yeah, okay, just to let everyone know before you start, part of what has been extended, what I believe the committee has invited all of the former selectmen going back to the year 1950 to come and to be recognized at the festivities on Saturday night. So I was told that you had responded, so,
Yes, it'd be nice to see some of the others.
good, okay.
Just for the record, my name is Bob Champagne, and I do live at 20 Vineyard Ave in Clinton. As you just found out, I'm still a little hard of hearing, Mary Rose, so if you can speak in the mic a little better. Everything I have to make comment on or say here tonight is my own personal view. I know you know that I am also president of the Clinton People for Effective Government, but this has nothing to do with that. These are my views as seen through being a former selectman and understanding the problems that you as a board are encountering and will be encountering very shortly. I did not vote in favor of the school, but one of the people that spoke, that you just made that motion on to have a group to look into helping the elderly or the low-income people to try to see if they can, how we can help them to survive if this does pass or whatever happens down the road with water treatment and so forth, was Erin Nugent, Erin Nugent Tyler now. And she definitely should be on that committee because she spoke on the town hall floor for that proposal, and she's also organized a committee with CPEG to, and maybe some of those could probably be there to help too. We've been trying to get people to come out to vote, and it's been working quite well. We sent out 200 letters to newly registered voters for that special town meeting. I don't know if one of the people showed up or all 200, but 1,000 did anyway, so I'm hoping that, you know, what happened there was good. I'd like to thank, Selectman Zepantis, though, for making that motion to have a yes/no vote ballot, secret ballot, and for Selectman Buffton for seconding that. This was the correct and fair way to take that vote at the special town meeting. And I know you had made Mary Rose comments about it being a fair way to do that also in the papers that I read. I hope this 2.5 override will not pass for many reasons. What the school department has really done is put in a situation that started a few years ago, of putting, in lack of other words, us against them. The us being the school committee and the school department, and the them being the fire, police, DPW, general government, and everything else that this board needs to accomplish. And they have many things to accomplish. Also, our stabilization fund is only about $537,000. And this is at the minimum. We should have 10% of our budget, I believe, right, Mike?
Goal is
10% of the budget. And the budget's around $23 million, so it should be, we should have about $1.5 million in our stabilization fund, even before going to any type of program like building this $20 million school. I know we're only going to finance $5.4 million, as they say, but these are the facts. This is it. On the new school, there are issues that they haven't really addressed yet. Safety is a big problem in that area. I think Jerry, as well as all the DPW people and all the parents that leave children off, the bus drivers, can attest to what it's like, especially in the winter, when School Street becomes one way. The buses can't get out, the trucks can't get in, and I don't know why trailer trucks travel the School Street area from Union to Church, but they do. And this creates a lot of big problems. I, on 2 different occasions, counted the number of trucks passing the school Union Street area, and they were both on a Friday. And there were 43 trucks that passed there from 2:30 to 3 o'clock on one time, and 45 trucks on another occasion. I went and I told the police chief about it, because this is going to be a real safety problem, and I don't know if lights are in the foreseeable future or what's going to happen, but if the school is located and they have, I don't know, we have 16 classrooms down there now, and they're going to more than double that to 40, you're talking about an awful lot of traffic of buses, kids, and everybody that's going to be traversing School, Union, and Church Street. And this is fact because I think most of you know I am a school crossing guide down there, and I'm there when school starts in the morning, and I'm also there when school gets out at 3 o'clock. And I see these problems, and it bothers me quite a bit because on several occasions, just trying to stop cars to let kids or people cross the street, cars have gone through my signal to stop. And on 2 occasions, had I not been at the side instead of right in the traffic, I would have been hit. It is dangerous, and this has got to be addressed with the issues of the school and everything else. I don't know what how the people are really thinking about this. I mean, they read the papers, they know what this board is going to do in the near future. I mean, I'm talking the next 2 years, 3 years, where you have to build a water treatment plant. And this may be mandated. If we do not build it, we're going to be hit with fines. And I know when I was on the board, there were fines were $1,000 a day, or they were very substantial. So we have no choice. This has to be done. And the infrastructure is really falling apart, and I think it's the late 80s since we really spent any money of the tune of like $3 million to work on the water pipes in the town, and this is something that should be started again. You know, it's going to be too bad to have that nice water treatment plant turning out this nice, clean, crystal water, but by the time it goes through the pipes and gets to your house, there's no change in the way it is right now. And that will be the case. Also, back when I was on the board back in 1992, there was discussion that we may have to build a water treatment plant. And at that time, I had done investigative work to see what one would cost and what the cost would be to the town and the water users and so forth. And at that time, the plant was going to cost about $16 million. And now they're talking somewhere between 12, 15, somewhere in there. It could be less. And I think that's maybe due to technology advances, I don't know. But the one thing that didn't change was how it's going to be financed. And back then, the figure that was given to us was $157 per household that had 2.3 people. And so with the surcharge on there for the sewer, you're talking over $200 is the annual charge that we're going to be to the homeowners that use water. Now, these people that have 2- and 3-family houses, you can guess what their water bill's going to go up over and above what it is today. Now, they're not going to absorb that cost. That cost is going to go in increased rents for those people using those apartments. And I think the people have just got to understand just what is happening on this. And, you know, I have a stake in this too. I have 5 children that went right through the whole school system. They all graduated from Clinton High School. I have 9 grandchildren right now in the school system or going to be entering in the next couple of years. So I know we need a school too, but we don't need it for the $20 million price tag that they're going to put into it, not with all the other expenses that you as a board are going to have to take care of. This board, you are the leaders of the town because, and you're going to have these difficult choices. And the Finance Committee, I've heard of 2 different people that in 2 different ways told me that, and they're probably not going to like this, but what they did by approving that article, they created what people out there are saying on the street, that now the Finance Committee is just an extended arm of the school committee. Now that's a terrible thing to have a board be looked at, but you can see why it is. Now, there are some that weren't there. Yep. Yep.
Comments, but I don't think the board up here wants to go on hearsay.
Okay. I'll leave personalities and things out of this for this. But I just did want to congratulate John Mitchell for sticking to his guns and staying with it and voting no on that proposal. On the motion that you just passed too, I think you have to know also that 28% of the people in Clinton cannot meet their expenses or they pay their bills today in our good economy. And that is a fact. These are state numbers, and they're readily available to anyone who wants to see them. And this is important because if they vote for this school override, these are the people that are going to be hurt even more. And I see it because being a volunteer, trying to help people for private organizations to try to see if we can help them meet their expenses, get food, take care of their kids, buy diapers and everything else. And it's ongoing. It's 2 and 3 times a week. And there are other agencies like the Item Appeal and Wheat and everyone else is trying to help these people too. And they're not all in just one area of town. They're all over town. Now, if I can help this board in any way from just being a resident, I'm more than willing to do this. As trying to get the vote out as the Clinton people for effective governor, we're going to be making probably 3,000 phone calls. We have about 80 members now. And the only thing, we're not telling them how to vote, we're trying to tell them, go vote. And this is all it is, a very short message, please vote on May 1st. And one other thing I was going to mention to you. Just bear with me.
Are you talking
what?
the annual election, Bob? Are you talking about?
No, the annual town election. The annual town election. As you know, last year there was only 2,600 people that voted. Our goal is to see if we can get at least 3,400 come out. And next year we would like to have 4,000. I think these goals are realistic. I know, Mary Rose, as chairman, your leadership is going to be very, very important right now. And to look at these budgets, because I know if the school committee can't be cut, and then all of a sudden, to stay within 2.5, you have to make cuts. You have only one way to go with fire, police, DPW, general government, or anything else that you are already trying to plan. And this is very difficult. And I think the way that anybody would understand it has to be sitting right there where you are to understand the work you go through on the budget process. And when you have to go back and try to make cuts, where do you make them? How do you make them? And it's very hard. And just one question for, not question, but comment about Marty. I know this is only the second time in the last 7 years I've come up before this board. And I'm not going to run against you, Marty. I'm still looking for this publicity. I remember what happened the last time, and but I am happy that you are seeking re-election, and I do support you 100%. And if any of the boards has any questions or any other comments, they want to address to me now while I'm here, fine.
Are you touching at all, Bob, on the override vote on March 20th? Are you getting involved?
Only to the
Are you making phone calls?
Only to the extent that I've been meeting with the senior citizens, Carol Farrell, and there are a lot of elderly people that have difficulty getting to vote because they're on oxygen, they're in wheelchairs, and this and that. And we've been trying to help get applications out for absentee ballots, and so that they can vote at home and mail back their ballot. But that's all we're really doing on that. Well, I thank you very much for listening to me, and good luck and good night.
The only other thing that I had before we do have an executive session item is, I know Claire's here, and I thought of it today, and I don't want to put you on the hot seat or anything, and I didn't know if Michael had heard anything, but is there a time frame on the proposals for the post office? And when could we expect, or is there any kind of a deadline when we could expect hearing if they had settled on one of those two sites, or are they looking somewhere else? If you would.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding the post office, I last spoke with the real estate specialist for USPS probably about 3 weeks ago, and he informed me that they had taken on board the comments from the selectmen and were working out site issues with the proponent for the downtown location. They haven't made a final decision as yet. However, they are trying to make it work for the town. I'm not sure as the timeline. He said that it may be a couple of months, but that they will come back to the selectmen with their decision.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I thought of that today, and I said, yeah,
Thank you.
wanted to bring it up. Thank you very much, Claire. Thanks. And just the one other issue, just to follow up, that the committee that we've decided to form on the senior citizen issues, I guess I would just be very cautious. I don't want any senior citizens out there thinking that because we formed a committee that we're spontaneously going to start giving discounts to senior citizens. That's not the intent. It's just to look to see if somewhere in the future, if there are mechanisms that we could try to lessen the burden, but that is absolutely, unequivocally not a guarantee that that's going to happen, but just something that we're going to look into. And I thought of it after we moved on it, that I just want to be very cautious to the folks out there that it's not to say that we are immediately going to start giving discounts to senior citizens in tax relief, because first of all, we couldn't do that without looking at the overall effect of the entire budget for the town of Clinton. So it's just an avenue for us to sit down and to try to see if there are ways that we can at some point in time. But that's not to say that in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month from now that there'll be a program in place. So I just wanted to, before we move to go into executive session. Thank you very much, Claire, on the post office information. Okay, the only item that we have left is executive session under Article 6 in reference to 1185 Main Street. And what's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to go into executive session under Article 6.
Is there a second? It requires a roll call vote. How do you vote, Mark?
Aye.
Ready?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I vote aye. So we'll be in executive session for half an hour, maybe 20 minutes? Okay. And the only other business that we would have is just the signing of the warrant.